Hello guys, hope you're okay this evening. So just a little quick video tonight, and it's about Skirmish, my favourite thing to do with Age of Sigmar. And basically there's new rules for it, complete amendment to the rules, which I didn't know about, so unless I've been completely in the dark, I'm assuming others won't either. And they are in January's and February's White Dwarf. So quite a big overhaul in terms of points, because the system for after battles has been completely rehashed. So that's the main reason I want to do the video, to just inform you how the points changes have worked and how you can revise them in your own way. So what's the difference? So the big complaint a lot of people had to do with Skirmish was the diversity in the armies. So when you look through the backs of the pages, which is where you can get your armies from, or your warband should I say, there was Chaos, and there was a few units in Chaos, there was a few units in Death, like really small amount, a few units in Destruction and Order, and there were a certain amount of points. And basically what it did, it suggested that you started with a warband with 25 points to go if you were going to go through a campaign. So there was a really good campaign in here, and it was like over 6 battles, really good storyline to it, and you sort of ended up, I've done a previous video on this if you want to go back and have a look, but it's the points through each battle. After the 6 battles, you ended up with going from a small little warband to something that could progress into the Path to Glory campaign, which is another great thing that Games Workshop brought out. And then the Path to Glory would eventually lead you up to a full 2,500 points Age of Sigmar army. So what they've done this time is they've basically revised the point systems, which have opened it up so you can create any warband you want from any army. So I'll tell you how it worked. So the previous system, there was the way that GW worked out their points. I'm not sure whether this was official or unofficial, but this is how it worked. So what you did was you looked at how many points it cost for a unit of troops. So let's say, for example, just making up a standard army, an Empire Longswords unit, and let's say it was 100 points for an Empire Longswords unit. So what you do is you divide that by the minimum amount of troops you can have in a unit. So let's say Empire Longswords unit, Great Swords unit, 100 points, and the minimum you can have in a unit is 10. Okay, so you divide the 100 points by 10. Right, that basically gives you 10. 100 divided by 10 is 10. And what you do then is you divide it by 5, right? So that basically means that 10 divided by 5, 2. Each Great Swordsman cost 2 points. And that was how you worked out your troops for the warband. The way it works out for heroes is you work out how much your hero would cost normally. So free guild general would be 100 points. Obviously there's only one hero there. So you divide the 100 points, which is how much the hero costs, by 1, which is 100. So then what you do is you divide it by 5 again. So that general 100 points divided by 5 is 20. So that's why he costs 20 points in there. So there's your basis for your 25 points. You've got your general, which is 20 points, because you've divided him by the minimum amount in his unit, which is 1, and then you've divided that by 5. So then you've got your Great Swords, which you've divided, which were 100 points, divided by 10, because that's the minimum, and then divided by 5 again, gives you like 2 points per model. So you would have 2 Great Swords and 1 General. So what they did this time was, and this is the only thing they did different, was they took the dividing it by 5 at the end. They just took that out, and it has simplified things so much. So they say now to start your warband at 150 points. So let's look at the similar system General would be 100 points normally, so you're not dividing it by 5 anymore. 100 points general, that leaves you with 50 points. Now your great swordsman, we worked out that the minimum what you can have in a unit is 10 men. 100 points divided by 10 is 10, right? So that's telling you that each great swordsman in this new system is 10 points each. So your general's 100 points, your great swordsmen are 10 points each. You can now have 5 great swordsmen and a general. It's as easy as that, and you can do that throughout your list. So the other thing is as well is you don't have to have a hero as your general, because the other thing you do that's new to the rules now is if you want a unique person in your unit, you have to pay an extra 5 points towards that person. So say for example, we'll talk about your great swords again. Your great swords, one person is 10 points. If you want to have a champion, you have to add 5 points to that, so he becomes 15 points. If you want to have a musician, you have to add 5 points. If you want a standard bearer, you have to add 5 points. But your champion, for 15 points, can actually be the leader of the warband. So let's say, for example, you're going to play Ogre Kingdoms. I don't know off the top of my head how much an Ogre Kingdoms unit is, but you're going to struggle to get a leader and 2 ogres in that unit. So what you're probably going to have to do is get a standard unit, have the champion from that standard group, and then have 2 standard ogres, and that's the start of your warband. So that's another big change, is that and that goes for things as well, like say for example, in the Stormcast units, you can have your standard liberators. One of them can have the Great Hammer, and if you want, I think it's 1 in every 3 1 in every 5 can have a Great Hammer. If you want the Great Hammer, it's going to cost you 5 points, because it's a unique thing you can have in a unit. So that's another change to it. The biggest difference is the points that you get at the end of each game. So when I was talking about Skirmish in my previous video, in my mind the way I had it was that it was a way of a way of progressing your armies. So you'd start off with a little warband, you'd have a battle on the night, let's say it took you an hour, and then let's say if you won the game, minor victory, you would get 8 points. If you lost, you would get 6 points. Let's say based on 2 points per model, it would be you'd have 3 extra. The winner would get 4 extra soldiers to paint up, and the loser would get 3. And then also you have a table. You have a table at the end, which scroll down now. And on that table, you can get things like where you can earn an extra 6 renown or an extra D3 renown, things like that. So if you were lucky enough to make them rolls as well, you'd get a bit more renown, you'd be able to buy a few more troops, and these armies after each game would build up progressively. The way it reads now in the magazines is that it's almost as if each game would be half an hour, and so you would tear through maybe 2, 3, maybe all of the games in one night, because what they're saying is you're still getting the same renown rewards. So obviously the units haven't been divided by 5 anymore. But if you look here, and I'll do a screenshot at the very end, but if you look here, what it basically says is that for a major victory you get 10 renown, minor victory 8 renown, draw 7 and lost 6, and that's identical to the previous skirmish, but your models aren't costing 2 points each anymore, they're costing 10 points each or more on some cases. So that's going to take you a long time to build up this warband, which is what Skirmish is sort of all about, really. It's building an army through a narrative, through like a little campaign. So for me personally, I would, if that's not a typo, which I don't actually think it is, then what I would do is I would times those scores by 5, because it basically gives you 50 points for a major victory, and etc all the way down. It basically evens up the scoreboards for the points wise, because you're not dividing the units by 5 anymore. Then times that result by 5. Another reason I would do that as well is because on the rewards, they've changed the rewards as well. So you still get the legendary hero at the end where you get an extra 6 renown, but you don't get any other opportunity to get renown in it. And if in the first battle you win, you get that 6 renown, and then the next battle you roll again and get that again, you can't have it again. You get a one-shot deal on each of these rolls. So for me personally, I would just times up the results for renown by 5. So there's another campaign in there as well. It's not great. It's nowhere near as good as the proper skirmish campaign. The narrative in the skirmish campaign for this, which is about £6, is excellent. But overall, it just simplifies things a bit. It just now makes it easier without having to do a lot of maths. It makes it a lot easier to just look in your General's Handbook. You'll need a General's Handbook, the basic rules, and all you need to know basically is that you start with 150 points for a campaign, and you can do your own campaigns based off that. You can go through a lot of these. Just use a lot of these campaign things here are just using things out of the General's Handbook and out of the actual main rule book. Just use normal battlefields, but just try and scale them down. So if you're using a 6 foot by 4 foot table, do a 3 foot by 4 foot table. Just dissect it in half, because the battles are going to be a lot smaller in size. So that's it really, guys. All you have to do is just base it off 150 points, look in your General's Handbook, and the other thing as well is you have to have one general and you have to have two troops. So i.e. you'd have to have like 2 great swordsmen and either a champion or a hero or whatever. But as I say, in the big expensive units, you could just pick, well, in any units, you could just have your champion. If you wanted, you could have 14 great swordsmen, have your general as the champion of that unit, and have a standard bearer. And you've got your champion, he's your leader, and you've got another 13 great swordsmen following his banner. So you could do it that way if you wanted. Personally, I'd always want to have a hero, and just gives you that, it's something special about having a nice, well painted heroic character in there. So that's what I'll be doing anyway. But I'll definitely be timesing them by 5. Or the other thing you can do as well is you could just up the ante a little bit. So you could say, you could times it by 5, but you could say the result, that's over 2 battles, because the battles will be rather quick to run. So they are about half an hour to an hour per session. So let's say you do 2 sessions, the winner would get 50 points, the loser would get 30 points, something like that. So you're getting something out at the end of the night. You're still going to be at the next session, you're still going to have another 4 or 5 units to do your next battle with. So that's the way I'd go with it, guys. But all in all, it's a little revision. These are official rules, actual official rules. These do circumvent these rules. But as with anything, guys, there's people still playing 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle out there. If you're doing it in your living room, or if you're doing it at a club where they let you do what you want, just do the rules that make you happy. It really doesn't matter. But I thought I'd put it out there, guys. I thought I'd let you know because I didn't know about it till the other day. And it does make it a lot easier to... That unofficial calculator's been out there for quite a while, but a lot of people didn't know about it. So, sorry for waffling on a bit, but just thought I'd get that out for you guys. Alright, take care. Bye-bye.